there, I'm Sriqui23 or Game Night 23, depending on where you're looking. Welcome back to another episode. Tonight I will be showing you my Super Nintendo collection. This is my Super Nintendo right here. It's the second model called the Junior, which I believe came out around 1996, but the original came out in 1991. There's no particular reason why I have this, just what I happened to find out in the wild for cheap, and it works perfectly fine, so there's no reason why I don't necessarily prefer it over the base model. It's just what I have. Now, I'll show you guys a couple of accessories that I have for it. First off, this is the Super Game Boy. This is a really cool accessory. Lets you play Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo, and even in many games, like, they have custom borders and they'll kind of colorize them. It's very cool. A lot of games used it. Probably some of the more notable games to use it were Donkey Kong 94, as well as the Game Boy version of Space Invaders. That really took advantage of it. In here I have the Super Nintendo game Genie, as well as the manual for it. In fact, I've got like two of these things for it. Yeah, to provide me with various codes, so I can hack the games and provide cheat codes. Now, down here I've got more stuff. I have, this is actually the Super Nintendo mouse pad, and, hold on. In here I actually have the Super Nintendo mouse. This primarily was meant to be used with Mario Paint and came with it originally, but there's actually a bunch of games for the Super Nintendo that use this thing. It's actually very cool. I've got also some controllers. Like, this is a fairly standard third-party controller. This is a first-party one. This is one with it has some extras. It has like turbo switches and slowdown, and it even has like the L and R buttons here on the side. It's primarily meant for fighting games to make it easier to push the buttons. In here I also have the, this is really cool, it's the Super Advantage. What that is, it's basically an arcade stick for the Super Nintendo, and again, it also comes with like lots of turbo switches and stuff like that. It's really nice to use. This thing's a very good build quality, and I really enjoy using it for sort of more arcadey games. And I actually have the box for it up here. Yeah, I have it, so I basically have it complete in box. Now, as for the actual games here, unfortunately, I don't have a huge number of games for this system. A lot of the better ones for the system are rather expensive, so that sort of limits me. But if we look in here, we can see I've got ActRaiser. That's a really good game made by a company called Quintet, who they were very much ahead of their time in that they made games that had sort of a very bittersweet feeling to them, and were often very emotional. Somewhat rough around the edges, but still really good. This one in particular, ActRaiser, was really quite good in that it actually combined a normal side-scrolling action with a sort of SimCity-esque God sections, and it produced some interesting results, but it's definitely one of my favorite games on the system. I've got Contra 3, The Alien Wars, Donkey Kong Country. That one's actually very notable in that it was one of the first games to utilize pre-rendered graphics, which made the game look a lot better than its contemporaries. And in fact, up here I actually have a promotional VHS tape that was given out to subscribers of Nintendo Power at the time. Now, over here I have F-Zero. This was actually, the Super Nintendo, it could do a thing called Mode 7, which allowed for background layers to be scaled and rotated in a 3D-ish sort of way, and that actually was a great boon for, a lot of games kind of shoehorned it in, but it was a great boon for racing games. Like, up until that point, most racing games on consoles honestly weren't that great because in the arcade they could utilize specialized scaling hardware to make themselves look good, but console versions could really only sort of approximate it, so it didn't look that great. But F-Zero really, it kind of rose the bar as far as performance and speed of racing games on a home console are concerned. Got Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. This one's actually rather infamous because basically Square at the time, they were trying to make a game to appeal to Americans, and essentially they created a sort of super dumbed down beginner's RPG, and many people found it very patronizing, and it frankly isn't very good. It's interesting though, and has a really good soundtrack. Have Flashback, which was that was originally an Amiga game that utilized rotoscoping. Gradius 3, this one's really good. It's a port of the arcade game. Illusion of Gaia, this is another quintet game. This one's more of a Zelda-esque action RPG. A lot of fun. Has a rather rough English translation, but it kind of hits where it counts. Killer Instinct, which is another game by Rare, a really good fighting game. Kirby's Avalanche, that was originally a game called Puyo Puyo in Japan, and when they brought it over to the US for the Super Nintendo, they called it Kirby's Avalanche, but they also released it on the Genesis, and they called it Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Got Luffia 2, Rise of the Sinestrols. This is probably the rarest game I own for the console. It's worth over $100. I got it for only about $10 at a pawn shop, so it's definitely one of my better finds. Also a very good turn-based RPG. Mario Paint, Pilot Wings. This was another sort of showcase for Mode 7. It kind of allowed for a flight simulator sort of game. Populous, this was originally an Amiga game, and was pretty much the origin of the God game genre. SimCity, this was originally a PC game, but this Super Nintendo version is really good. They added in kind of a lot of neat flourishes to it, like instead of having Godzilla destroy your city, they instead had Bowser in there. Star Fox, now this one's really cool. It's one of the first games on consoles to really make use of polygon graphics, and it looks very primitive by today's standards, but at the time it was hugely advanced, especially because previous games on consoles that had tried to utilize polygon graphics really, they ended up being extremely choppy and didn't play well. But this game, what it does is that it utilizes a special chip called the Super FX chip. Now, a lot of Super Nintendo games had special chips in them to help with graphics and such, or make the games run smoother. But the Super FX chip was well known for really being a powerhouse at the time, and got Super Double Dragon. This one's really cool. It's essentially the fourth game in the series. A lot of people don't really talk about it though, unfortunately. But I think it's one of the better ones. Got Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World, which basically is the entire series up to that, almost the entire main series up to that point. Very cool. I have Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars. This one is one of my favorites. It's a turn-based RPG featuring Mario and friends. Hold on. And it has a really good sense of humor and very sort of witty writing. I definitely recommend it, and I want to give a shout out and thank you to my buddy Daniel, who gave this to me as a gift. Honestly, it was awesome. I have the first two Super Star Wars games, ES3, which is an action RPG, Yoshi's Island. Now, this one's fairly interesting. this game, it's called Super Mario World 2, but it really has very little to do with the original. It's honestly a really good game. A lot of people overlooked it at the time because it had very cutesy sort of looking graphics. It also uses the Super FX chip. It doesn't really say that, but it uses it, and it uses it instead of for polygon graphics. It allows for a lot of interesting sprite scaling and rotation effects that honestly make it look probably about as good as a lot of early 32-bit games, and plus it had just excellent level design and gameplay and music. Now these are my Super Famicom games, and the Super Famicom was the Japanese Super Nintendo. And what's interesting is that unlike the Famicom, which had different pins to prevent where you needed sort of an adapter to play it on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. With this, the only thing that's stopping you are essentially two plastic pins in here. I'm not sure if you can really see it, but and essentially you can remove it. I've thought of removing it. I've been rather hesitant to, as I don't want the games to end up loose in the system, but eventually what I'll do is I'll get a sort of a replacement tray for this that will allow for region-free gaming, and it should be fairly cheap. I just need to swap one out for the other. Now, as far as Super Famicom games go, I've got this one complete in box called Aretha. I've heard it's kind of a Dragon Quest clone, but apparently a pretty good one. A lot of these games actually have either fan translations or else walkthroughs that you can follow online to play them even if you don't know Japanese. I got this one called Great Strategy Experts. These two games here are basically both part of the same series called Mystery Dungeon, which are essentially a series of roguelikes, and they're pretty good. They're actually very good, but the series wouldn't make its way outside of Japan for a while. Let's see, I've got more stuff here. Oh yeah, I've got Rockman X3. Reason why I have this game was released in the US as Mega Man X3, but unfortunately the Super Nintendo version is very rare and very expensive. But this Super Famicom version is very cheap. I was able to get it for about $20, so it was no big deal. So if I wanted to own a physical version of this, I needed to go with the Japanese version. I've got also Romancing Saga 2. That's an interesting RPG by Square. Super Puyo Puyo, which is a fun puzzle game. Well as Far East of Eden Zero, which is also a fun Japanese RPG made by Hudson Soft, I believe. Overall, I really enjoy my Super Nintendo collection. I may not have a ton of games for it, but the games I do have are generally very high quality, and overall, it just has a great library with tons of great games, and more than I'm kind of discovering as I keep going. And overall, I just really enjoy playing things on this machine. Just wish I could get more of them, than that they didn't cost as much as they do, but hey, what can you do? But yeah, that's it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check me out on Instagram. My username there is GameNight23. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time. See ya.